Okay, shalom, powerful, powerful, powerful lesson ahead. The concept of the two anointed ones as found in Zechariah and how this is linked to this week's Torah portion and some of the powerful concepts that I've been talking about in recent lessons. Let's go have a look. Okay, shalom. So, if you're in America, today will be Thanksgiving Day, I do believe. So, happy Thanksgiving Day. We should be thankful. We've got a lot to be thankful for. Yod-Heh-Wah has made a great provision to draw us near to him and together in the lost of the house of Yosef, and to unite them with Yehuda, and to bring ultimately shalom to the entire of humanity. And we are in that process now. Got this verse, however, from this week's Torah portion, Vayetze. And she conceived again and bore a son. This talking about Leah, the wife that was unloved, by the way, the wife that was hated. And she said, since the Lord has heard that I am hated, she gave me this one too. So she named him Shimon. Okay, so if anybody's been paying attention to the last lessons that I've done, you will start to understand the significance of this name. How is it, however, related to the concept of the two anointed ones that we find in Zechariah? Let's go find out. Let's just have a look at some numbers first, however. So there's quite a lot of numbers involved in this. We're just going to be looking at a few of those numbers. They're all highly significant. It will be at least 2 lessons, however. So first of all, I recently did a teaching on this, and Isaac loved Esau because Isaac represents the Yehuda of Abraham. And I did a teaching why Yitzhak loved Esau, because ultimately this light is so bright that it only really comes to its own when it's confronted with all the powers of Satan that's represented by Esau, all the powers of physicality, all the powers of ego, and it's in wrestling with all those dark forces, if you like, and transforming them from darkness into light that the full power of Yehuda is really revealed. So as we can see, if we take the square ordinal and the ordinal, it comes to 2,378, exactly the same as the filling out at the level of Beriyah, where the He is filled with a Yud and the Vav is filled with an Aleph, and sorry, at the Beriyah, and also Yetzirah, where let me just think about that, where the He is filled with an Aleph, and the Vav is also filled with an Aleph, so that's why they'll be the same, because there's no He's in this, there's only Vavs. Okay, so filling out of, so she named him Shimon, and we can see very powerfully related to this whole concept of Yitzhak, who loves Esau. Okay, absolutely beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And then this is also connected to this. The triangular number is always 2 times the square ordinal plus the ordinal. Okay, you can do a formula to prove why that is so with regard to square ordinals and triangular numbers and things like that. However, so 1189 is 2 times 1189 is 2378. This is a powerful, powerful, significant number. Let's go have a look. Because it is this, King of the Nations, Melech Goyim. Yod-Heh-Wah was desired to be the King of the Nations also, as well as King over Israel. Israel and Esau represents the nations. Yitzhak, the Yehuda, the Holy Yehuda, that is exactly the same as Mashiach ben Yosef, loves Esau. He wants to bring the whole of humanity in, not just Bnei Yisrael. Okay? Bnei Yisrael's got to be a light to the nations. Bnei Yisrael represents the soul. The nations represent the body. A soul without a body is a poltergeist. I've talked about that a lot. Okay, so we've already gone through that. Just pointing out this number, however, 1009 is Satan. It's the Mispar Gadol of Satan. Okay, so there is a connection between Esau and the whole. Esau's guardian angel is Hasatan, the Satan. He is also the guardian of, he's also the accuser, and he's also the angel of death. They're all synonymous terms. Okay, so the guardian angel over Esau is Satan. Guardian angel over Israel is Michael. So we can see the connection. We have got, in order to become Israel, we've got to wrestle with all the forces of darkness, just as Yaakov wrestled with the angel that was the guardian angel of Esav, until the angel blessed him with his name Yisrael. Yisrael means to fight against man and gods, the gods of Esav, the guardian angel of Esav, which is Satan. We have been wrestling with him for a long time now. And they embalmed him when he was placed in a coffin in Egypt. So that comes to 3,567, 3 times 1,189. So we know that Joseph is a part of this process of revealing Yod-Heh-Waw to be king of the nations as well as king of Israel. Another fascinating thing with this is, and they embalmed him and he was placed in a coffin in Egypt. The ordinal and the regular and the ordinal added together come to 1,764, which is 4 times a meth, 4 times truth. The regular ordinal and the Mispah ordinal, however, added together come to 555, which is exactly the same as Hillel and Shammai, the triangular number of Hillel and Shammai. And Hillel and Shammai were the Nasai and the Av Beth Din. And I've pointed out in previous lessons that Shammai is Shimon ben Hillel, who is Shimon Kefa, who is the real true office of Yeshua Mashiach ben Yosef. So we've got even a very powerful connection there between this verse and they embalmed him and placed him in a coffin in Egypt. And we are currently in a situation that's very similar. The whole essence of Joseph is buried in Rome. Okay, we've got to take that out of Catholicism and bring it into holiness. Got to wrestle with those forces of Esav, deception, fantasy, lies, evil, in order to bring it over to the side of truth, holiness, good. No eye has ever seen a God beside you. So the Mispah Gadol of this is 3006, which is 2 times this. Okay, it's got an ordinal, Mispah Gadol ordinal, and the regular ordinal. I've knocked the numbers off to make it a little bit easier. Comes to 334, which is exactly the same as the regular for Mashiach ben Dawid, when Dawid is spelled with a Yod. If we add up the, okay, maybe I shouldn't have taken the number off. Just wait a minute. Okay, so I've added this back in now. If we add the regular and the ordinal, the Mispah Gadol regular and the ordinal, they come to 4,756, which is 2 times 3, 2,378. These 2 times 3, 2,378. So she named him Shimon. Okay, very significant, because as we can see, 3,006 is 2 times 1,503, 2 times this, and 2 times this. Okay, and it's Mashiach ben Dawid. And it's also, this is a very significant number. But this is also give truth to Yaakov, to Tena Methli Yaakov. What truth, O Yosef Chai? Yosef is still alive. No eye has seen a God beside you. Okay, we haven't been able to perceive Yod-Heh-Waw clearly. Okay, no eye. No ayin, the missing letter ayin off the name Yeshua, that reduces him down to Yeshu, Yimach Shemo Zikro. Okay, so there's all kinds of powerful hints in there, but clearly this is related to the whole unifying of Yod-Heh-Waw between heaven and earth, body and soul, Esav and Yisrael, Israel and the nations, male and female. It's all one concept. Nobody has seen the weaving that has gone on in order for Yod-Heh-Waw to accomplish that, and primarily through Mashiach ben Yosef this is accomplished. And then this whole experience will be this throne upon which King David sits, and we are all part of that throne, by the way. We are to be elevated up to the level of throne, Binah. Neither shall those who hate me for naught wink their eyes. So this is very significant, because it comes to, if you add a kollel for every word, and it's got the word hating as well, which is linked to here, because she, Leah is sanuha, hated, because I am hated, and as we can see, sin I, hated, and it's actually a lot like the letter, it's a lot like the name Shammai. You know, the whole concept of Mashiach ben Yosef is very hated in a way. But if you change that nun to an M, it's Shemai. Neither shall those who hate me for naught wink their eyes. If you add a kalel for each word of that, again we've got the word ayin, as in the letter ayin removed from the name Yeshua, or the title Yeshua, the title of Yeshua for the revelation of the name of Yod-Heh-Wah at the level of Keter, the upper crown, the upper face. Comes to 999, which according to the Vilna Gaon is the 999 footsteps that we have to do, wrestling and toiling with all the forces of darkness and evil and Satan, in order to bring about a revelation from above, the 1000th revelation, which is the revelation of Mashiach ben Yosef. We've got to do 999 footsteps below, the footsteps of Mashiach, the birth pangs of Mashiach. Okay, however, if we take the 995 and add the ordinal, this is the ordinal, it comes to 1189, King of the Nations. It's a process of revelation. Okay, it's a process of revelation. And in part, it's rectifying a problem with Leah as well. Leah was destined to marry Esav. She was destined to be his wife, but she begged and pleaded, she cried. Okay, she's called the Bakara, the firstborn. She was firstborn before Rachel. She should have been married first. Yaakov took the birthright, the Bakara, from Esav, and then he ended up marrying a wife that he hated. Okay, and there's connections, isn't there? There's connections to that whole problem of. I'll just knock this off first so I'm not distracted. There's a big problem then, because Leah could have transformed Esav into righteousness, okay, because they was at the same level. Leah was a higher level. She was at the same level as Esav, and she could have ended up a loved wife on account of her transforming Esav into holiness. Okay. And this wonderful, elevated, creative initiative, there's a lot of positive qualities about Esav, and she could have brought all those over just through marriage to the realm of holiness. But instead, because Yaakov deceived Esav out of the blessing, he then had to marry a wife he didn't want. He was deceived into marrying a wife he didn't want. The Bakara that was for the original Bakara, Esav. And then we've got this process, haven't we, that we are now struggling with the forces of Esav, the forces of Satan, and all of us together are struggling to overcome the forces of Satan. Leah could have done this. Leah had the power and holiness to be able to do that through marriage to Esau. And we can only imagine what the situation would have been like. Anyway, we've got the situation that we've got now. So Yod-Heh-Wah desires to be king over the nations also, to be king over Esau also. And for this to be a holy vessel, so to the union like marriage with the light of Yod-Heh-Wah and the vessel of Shalom that is Esau transformed. Okay, so in the end there will be that kind of marriage that takes place, but it will be a much more magnified level, and it will be done in a much more macrocosmic way, and we're all a part of that, by the way. Okay, so we've got to understand these concepts are big concepts, and we're just privileged to be able to bear witness to those incredible workings of Yod-Heh-Wah to bring about fulfillment of his Torah in a perfect way. Okay, where his name will be completely and totally unified, where his oneness will be completely and totally revealed, and this wonderful marriage between heaven and earth will take place, and everything will be corrected and in its right place. And although we might have struggled to get there, and though we might have had a lot of work left to do to get there, we will eventually get to that place of unity, and it's absolutely wonderful. What Yod-Heh-Wah has planned is absolutely wonderful. So this is how it's connected to Zachariah, what are these two olive trees? So as we can see, all that this we are talking about is connected to 1199, which is this Ma Shnei Hazeitim. What are these two olive trees filled at the level of Asiyah? Okay, where the He is filled with a He and the Vav is filled with a Vav. Okay, so there's only He's in this, so it's when the He is filled with a He. This is a significant number, however. Yosef is still alive. Od Yosef Chai. So this is the primary revelation, the truth that needs to be given over to Yaakov. We talked about the truth given over to Yaakov, which Titene Methli Yaakov comes to 1503. I think that might be the regular and the ordinal added together. I can't quite remember now, or it just might be the regular. I'm not 100% sure, but it's either the regular and the ordinal, or just the regular. 1503. Titan Emethli Yaakov. And what truth is he given? Od Yosef Chai. Yosef is still alive. And what does that mean? That means a revelation of the upper face. The 13 attributes of mercy as revealed in Keter is still alive within Yosef, within the house of Yosef. They have maintained that flame within the camp of Yosef during the Edomite exile. I've talked about this a lot. The camps get split into two. They in that camp have maintained that. Revelation is the name Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh above the letter of the Torah. At the level of Keter, they're all merciful levels. And they need to be brought together, yoked with the Torah of Moshe. So what have we got? We've got the square ordinal plus the square ordinal Mispar Gadol comes to 2,631, 3 times 877. So we can see it's linked to the two olive trees. Powerfully linked to the two olive trees because it's essentially Yosef, Mashiach ben Yosef, in exile, that is being the way, the truth and the life. Alive with a revelation of the name of Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh. Alive with the revelation of the power of his name to forgive and be gracious and kind. Okay, so alive, and this is the way that Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh has chosen to reveal his name, and this is the truth, Emeth. We know it's connected to Emeth. All the time, truth is coming up. I think the spirit of truth comes up in this Torah portion. Why? So that you extinguish not the lamp of Israel. The lamp of Israel is David. That torch has to be kept alive. Why? Because it's the throne upon which David sits. And it's all connected. You see, the two torches need to come together. The two lamps need to come together. The lamp that was revealed to the house of Yehuda through the Torah of Moshe. The lamp that was revealed to the house of Yosef through the Torah of Mashiach ben Yosef needs to be yoked together. The experience and the letter yoked together. This experience of 2,000 years of exile and the Torah of Moshe yoked together as one. And that then becomes the lamp of Yisrael. That is Mashiach ben Dawid. If you go into, I'm not going to do it, I've done it in a previous lesson. You can see 2 Samuel 21:17. It is the lamp of, it is David who's called. They're taking him off the battlefield so that the lamp of Israel is not extinguished. That's what it's referring to. 6252 is 4 times 100, 1563. And as we can see, it's directly connected to King of the Nations, and all this via that. There's an ultimate goal to all this. There's an ultimate goal to suppressing, to rectifying Esav. There's an ultimate goal to reveal the unity of the name of Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh, the upper face and the lower face. There's a purpose to reveal the kingdom of Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh on earth as it is in heaven, a suitable dwelling place. You can't dwell with unrectified Esav. We've got the work through being a lamp of Israel, the light of Israel. We've got the opportunity to subdue Esav with the truth. Yaakov lied to Esav, it got us in a lot of trouble. We now have to sort the trouble out that caused. How do we sort something out when we deceived Esav out of his birthright? We have to correct it by empowering it with the truth. Give truth to Yaakov, and that truth to Yaakov is a revelation to Yaakov that helps subdue Esav, because it helps to understand the purpose of Esav. It helps Yaakov to humble himself before Esav and know that Yod-Heh-Wah created nothing with vanity and emptiness. Everything has supreme purpose, because everything is about a revelation of his name, whose absolute true existence and absolute only good. He didn't create anything ultimately evil. Everything was for good. So we've got to see the good in Esav and subdue him. All the evil he's got potential for, subdue that to shalom, with the truth that God himself has got a good purpose for Esav. That Esav's absolutely essential, because Esav represents the vessel, the desire to receive. And God desires to give. He needs somebody who wants to receive. We've all got an aspect of Esav to us. We all have an aspect of us that wants to receive, the outpouring from above. So now we're going to have a look at this concept. I just brought this up, and he said, these are the two anointed ones who stand before the Lord of all the earth. So connected to this concept, what are these two olive trees? We've got a number here, very, very important. 129, by the way, is Mashiach ben Ephraim. This is so beautiful. This is where the perfection of the Torah comes in. Talk about Shimon ben Hillel, Shimon ben Kepha, Simon Peter, Shimon, the one that we have to listen to him, Tishma'on, the one that comes like Moshe, Tishma'on, that word is Tav Shimon. We told who we had to listen to. We told we had to listen to one called Shimon. The Mashiach ben Yosef was Shimon ben Hillel, whose coded name in the Talmud is Shemai, who is also known as Shimon Kepha. This is the true office of Yeshua, the truth. He was exactly like Moshe. He was exactly a Nasi. He was the number 71. Moshe was 71. Out of the Sanhedrin, he was the 71st. He was the Yonah. 71 is Yonah. So you get the 70 elders and Moshe. You get the 70 members of the Sanhedrin and the Nasi, who was Shimon ben Hillel at this time, from AD 9 up until AD 30, when he then went to Rome. Shammai was born in BC 50, so in AD 30 he was 80 years old, the exact age of Moshe going in to get the Bnei Israel out of Egypt. The exact time he went into Rome to get the lost house of Joseph out of Egypt. Moshe was 40 years in the desert and then he died. Shimon Kepha went in AD 30. Shimon ben Hillel, Shammai, went in AD 30, 80 years old. He would have died in the 120th year. They say AD 68, but they don't know for definite. In AD 70, he was betrayed by the house of Shimon and the Sanhedrin, and there was rulings passed at Yavna, Council of Yavna, in AD 70, just before the destruction of the temple, where there was the prayer initiated against the believers in Yeshua, Mashiach ben Yosef. There was kicked out of the synagogue in that year, and these are significant things that all happened. And then the house of Shammai took over. The zealots took over. His own Talmudim betrayed him. They betrayed the truth. They betrayed the message. They sold him out to Rome, because it was the Romans that gave Ramban ben Yochanan ben Zakkai the authority to make the rulings and establish the Sanhedrin at Yavna. And this was the council at Yavna just before the destruction of the temple. So it's all happened together in AD 70. It's recorded Shimon Kepha. They don't know the exact dates, but they say AD 64 or AD 68. Okay, but they don't know the exact dates. So we know sometime prior to this Council of Yavna that really happened, is recorded in the Talmud. It's a very official council gathering, and some very important things happened at that council. all in AD 70, prior to the destruction of the temple. That's when Shimon ben Hillel was sold out. Shammai was sold out. He was betrayed by his own disciples, the house of Shammai. Okay, the zealots that are represented in the New Testament as Judas Iscariot, that then went on to commit suicide. And how did they commit suicide? Masada, the zealots was at Masada. They also refused to escape the siege of Jerusalem. The believers in Yeshua escaped and went to Pella. They stayed, they were stubborn, and they ended up dead and murdered. And not only that, they were so zealous they burnt all the storehouses. And even Ramban Yochanan ben Zakkai had to go and get into bed with Rome, Vespasian, who became the emperor, and his son Titus, who actually ended up burning Jerusalem down. It's all phenomenal things that have really covered up the truth and has really sold us all out to Rome. Judaism is sold out to Rome. It believes what the Romans have permitted it to believe because they got into bed with Rome. Christianity is telling us lies about who Yeshua is because it's sold out to Rome. Islam is the same. It's sold out to Rome. They're all in the belly of the serpent. That is Catholicism. That is the Vatican. We're all being sold out. We now start to wake up to the truth. Okay, so all these are factual things that I have talked about. That would have meant the prophet, like me, like Moshe, was exactly like him. He was exactly like him. He was the Mashiach. The level of Mashiach ben Yosef. He was Moshe. He was 80 years old when he went in to redeem the lost of Israel. He was 120 years old when he died, or in his 120th year, like his own father Hillel, who was also 120 years old. These are things that we've got to start to waken up to now, because of the truth. We've got to allow the truth to set us free from what? From this entire Roman Catholic, Vatican-controlled reality in which we live through the lies we have inherited through the Pharisees, of the leaven of the Pharisees and the Sadducees, that are all the major Abrahamic religions. We need to be let go of that. And everybody else in the world is held captive by that same power and force. And we are empowering it through believing the lies that we are being fed from this serpent. Okay, so this is absolutely so incredible, such perfect Torah revealed through the Gematria. This is utterly beautiful. I want to have a look at this number also because it's so significant. It's all the names of Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh, the fillings out the name of Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh. But the square number of this is 5 times 732. 5 times 2 sons of the oil, 2 anointed ones, like up here. And he said, these are the 2 anointed ones who stand before the Lord of the earth. And if you can see, it says, Wayomer ele shenei v'nei hayitzah. So 2 sons of the shining or the oil. Okay. This is from a verse where it is the only verse in the entire of the Tanakh where the initial letters spell in order Shimon. So you've got Shin, Mem, Ayin, Vav, Nun, Shimon. I passed out and was very crushed. We're going to have a look at that verse soon. So this is Mashiach ben Yosef in exile. I passed out and was very crushed. Okay, so this is our suffering servant that has suffered the horrors of Edomite exile. Okay, the one that got sold to Edom, sold to Rome, it was always his destiny because, like I say, we have got to, it's only from in the belly of the serpent, it's only fighting against all those forces of Esau that the power of that name comes into its own. The power of the name as revealed at Keter, the 13 attributes of mercy as what is revealed in the book of Micah chapter 7. So as we can see, it's just directly, it's in fact 5 times anything is the full rectification of it, because the 5 is the letter He, and we have to teshuv He, return to that level. So this is a rectification, okay, or a fulfillment. Let's go and have a look at some other numbers. So we've got this whole concept of Menachem and Shemai. Menachem departed, he was the Avbeth Din, to Hillel, and he departed in order to go and do the service to the king, and he took with him 80 pairs of disciples. Talked about this in previous lessons. Who entered? Shemai entered and became the Avbeth Din in Menachem's place. Who was Shemai? Shemai is a code name. Shemai is code name for Shemaya, heaven, a revelation of the name of Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh, and I've pointed it out. This is extremely rare in the Talmud even. It says Menachem departed and came in, entered, did Shemai, Kof, Vav. So we know this is code because Shemai is not a name to be found anywhere in the Torah, anywhere in the Tanakh even. It's not a name, it's a code. And then we've got telling you exactly what the code is. The code is Kof, Vav. Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh. It comes to the 26. This word Kof, Vav is never used. It's only ever used in as a number 26. What is 26? We know what 26 is. It's Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh. Not only that, it's the 26th verse of Psalm 118. Blessed is he who comes in the name of Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh, and we won't see him again until we say that. Who have we got to say that about then? It's all connected to Shimon and Shemai. So this can even be code name for it's Shemaya, heaven. Well, we know it's the heaven that's spoke about in Daniel, because that's written in Aramaic. Shemaya it means heaven in Aramaic. All you need to do is change the Yod and the Aleph around. Shemaya, Elah Shemaya, the God of heaven. It's mentioned many times in the book of Daniel, and we know that the book of Daniel is a revelation about the Mashiach. So we know that it's a code name for something, and it's a code name for some revelation of the name of Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh, and it's linked to Shemai. I've done in previous dates, it's linked to Shimon ben Hillel. I've done in previous dates how the Talmud points to the dates in the Talmud around Shemai coincide with the dates that we are given in the Talmud for Shimon ben Hillel. They are the same person, in other words. Okay, so it's all significant. You'd have to look at my other teachings on Shemai and Shimon ben Hillel to understand that. But if we take the square ordinal and the ordinal, and this ordinal, by the way, is a filling out of the name Moshe and Yeshua when the Vav is filled with an Aleph, I do believe. And Moshe, it's a filling out of the ordinal of Moshe and Yeshua, and I've gone through that number many times. It's come up on some of the last previous lessons. So if we add that up and also the square ordinal and the ordinal up, comes to 2,928, which is 4 times 732. It's highly significant. If you've been watching any of my previous lessons, all the ones on Kaderi notes and things like that, you'll see how significant this concept of Menachem departing and Shemai coming in. And if you watched any of the lessons that I did, especially on the chain of transmission of the chain of transmission within rabbinical Judaism, you know how significant the timings are, and you know when the timings coincide to AD 30, Shimon ben Hillel, Shemai, the house of Shemai coming in, and then the 40 years that Shimon Kepha was in Rome, in the wilderness, just exactly the same as Moshe was in, 40 years, and then he died in the 40th year in the wilderness. And it would appear that so too Shimon Kepha died in the 40th year within the wilderness. It all coincides. It's all powerful revelation. I hope you're following me with that. There's so much to say about it. It's hard to get it all in the right order, but if you've been watching anything that I've previously said, you'll understand what that's talking about. This, again, it's incredible. Ephraim and Manasseh come to 732, and I've previously said Ephraim and Manasseh represents Christianity and Islam. Okay, so Manasseh came first, it was Christianity, and then Ephraim is connected to Islam. And Manasseh's connected to Shemai, Ephraim's connected to Manasseh. And it says, there's a prophecy, may Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh make you like Ephraim and Manasseh, but it's also Ephraim and Manasseh will be like Reuben and Shimon, and this is where we get the concept of the Kalel from, because the gematria for Reuben and Shimon comes to 731, and the gematria for Ephraim and Manasseh comes to 732. And it says in the Torah, God will make, Ephraim and Manasseh will be like Reuben and Shimon. Okay? And there's a one gematria difference. So that's where we get the concept of the Kalel to add on another one. I did a teaching about it called Ephraim and Manasseh quite a few lessons ago, but if you did a search on Ephraim and Manasseh, it would pick it up, this whole concept of the Kalel. However, 731 is extremely significant, because 731, the exact gematria for Reuben and Manasseh, is the exact gematria for Moshe and Yeshua. 335 plus 386 comes to 731. So it's saying Ephraim and Manasseh, you are going to be like Reuben and Shimon, which is exactly the same as Moshe and Yeshua. So we've got very powerful messianic connections there. 120 as well is Eliyahu Hanavi, Elijah the prophet. I've got to go through this quickly because there's so much to get through. These are powerful, powerful revelations in and of themselves. Every single thing we're talking about is a powerful, powerful concept in and of itself. And yet we see how it's all linked together. Tree of knowledge, so we've got to rectify this concept of the tree of knowledge. We've eaten from the tree of the knowledge, and our consciousness of God has fallen down into our flesh. We're not able to properly perceive God. And Da'ath, the knowledge, the realm of knowledge, represents Moshe. It needs elevating back up to the place of Golgotha, the skull. It's fallen down into our flesh. The crowns that were on top of that Da'ath have fallen into the right and left shoulder, Gevurah and Chesed. So we end up with almost split personalities, bipolar. We don't thoroughly know how to discern good from evil. So we've got to restore our knowledge to its rightful place, and we've got to restore these crowns of Gevurah and Chesed, one above the other, so we don't have a split personality. So we've got everything in its right order. We'll just be able to perceive the absolute and utter goodness of Yotevaweh. Nothing else beside him. Perfection of the world, Tikkun Olam. So we're in a process of rectifying the whole world. 732, there's a purpose in this, like I say, and it's only a good purpose. Again, 120, it's exactly the same as this, Eliyahu Hanavi. And then we've got even the concept of God himself. So Elohim, 86, 41 is Kisei Dawid, the throne of David. I think it's the ordinal of that. 127 is a filling out of Yeshua. Yes, it is. Filling out of Yeshua. The filling out of Yeshua when the Vav is filled with a Yud. The ordinal of Yeshua filled out when the Vav is filled with a Yud comes to 127. 52 is Mashiach. 93 is Mashiach ben Dawid, the Mispag Gadol ordinal of Mashiach ben Dawid. And then we've got this 732 is connected to all this. Okay? There's lots of mystery involved in that. However, let me just redo this. The two anointed ones also refer to the good inclination and the evil inclination, which is converted to good in the merit of Torah. This is what the sages say. So the two witnesses, the two sons of the oil, the two anointed ones, good inclination, Yaakov, and the evil inclination, Esav. And the Esav has got to be converted into Shalom. And this could have been accomplished through Leah, but it's been accomplished through the sons of Yaakov instead, through his marriage to Leah. Okay. And Shimon being a primary one. Reuben and Shimon. So let's have a look at this, because this is incredible, like I say. So this is it showing you the verse. I passed out and was very crushed. I mourned from the turmoil of my heart. And like I say, the initial letters are Shimon. We can see how that's linked to the two sons of the oil. We want to look at this number here now, because it's basically, Shimon is a revelation of the name of Yotevaweh. This is the first filling out of the name of Yotevaweh, all the different levels. If we add the square ordinal and the ordinals together, it comes to 1882, exactly the same as I passed out and was very crushed. What is that telling us? That is telling us that Shimon, who's connected to all these concepts, is a revelation of the name of Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh, and we know this. Shimon ben Hillel. This is how it's actually connected to Shimon ben Hillel, because if you add a Kalel to that, it comes, like I say, the Reuben and Shimon, the Ephraim and Manasseh, the creation of the Kalel, the whole concept of the Kalel comes from that, from Torah. It's Torah based on what is said in Torah about Ephraim and Manasseh being like Reuben and Shimon, and there being one difference, 732 for Ephraim and Manasseh, 731 for Reuben and Shimon. So we add the Kalel and it comes to Shimon ben Hillel. It's utter perfection. And also, indeed, the Lord is in this place. So this is this week's Torah portion also. When Yaakov goes and he's on his way to Lavan's and he sleeps on top of Har Moriah, the sun sets early and he sleeps and he puts a stone under his head, and that stone becomes the stone of Shimon Kefer, the rock. Okay. So, Ochen Yesh Adonai, we showed how Yesh Adonai is connected to Moshe, Yeshua and Yonah. Okay, I might quickly bring that up again actually. So Yesh Adonai, God exists in this place, and upon this stone, that became Shimon Kefer, Kefer means stone, that was Shimon Hillel. On this stone, the house of God will be built. Okay, it's all beautifully connected. Let me just bring up about Shimon again. So here you've got this is the concept. This is from this week's Torah portion, both these verses. And Yaakov awakened from his sleep and he said, indeed, the Lord is in this place. So we just saw how that was linked to Shimon ben Hillel and linked to the names and linked to the verse, which is the only verse in Torah with an acronym of Shimon in it. The initial letters spell Shimon in order. Okay, so when Yaakov awakened from this sleep and said, indeed, the Lord is in this place, and I did not know it. 28:16. This is the prophet like Moshe. We talked about Shimon was like Moshe. He was 80 years old when he went to Rome. He was 120th year when he died. He was 14 years in the wilderness of Rome, or in the 40th year. He was 40 years in the wilderness of Rome. He was the Nasai. He was the number 71. He sat on the seat of Moshe. He was anointed with the same spirit that was on Moshe that had to pass from the Sanhedrin members. So he was like Moshe in every single way. Age, the time spent before he went into redeem, the time spent in the wilderness. He was betrayed by his own Talmudim. Moshe was betrayed by the Erev Rav. So his Torah descended got gobbled up by the Erev Rav. Shimon was betrayed by the Zealots that got gobbled up. The Torah of Mashiach ben Yosef, sold it out to Rome. Okay, because of a rock. Because of the rock. Which rock? This rock. That is ultimately Shimon. Okay. Tishma'on, listen to him. Moshe had to become Shimon. He ultimately came back and he became Shimon. It's like it says when he's pleading to God, let me into the Holy Land, and God says, Rav Lachit is enough for you. And Arizal says that means he will send a teacher for you, i.e. to raise up Moshe from a place where he doesn't understand to a place where he understands, and he also understands that he's the Mashiach. So he will be elevated up. And this is talking about the Mashiach that has to come like Moshe, a prophet from among you, from your brothers like me. The Lord your God will set up for you, and you will hearken to him. Tishma'on, and that is the name Shimon, Simon. And Tav represents the Tav of truth, the seal of God. So you got the three names, Moshe, Yonah and Yeshua. The red letters from each, the beginning, middle and end, spell Shimon. Exactly here, the one that we're to listen to. The remaining letters, Yesh Adonai. Just about this rock this place, Yesh Adonai, God's existence. It says, then this stone which I have placed as a monument, the stone which he was sleeping on, where he had the vision of the ladder from heaven to earth, and we saw in last lesson's teaching, not this, we saw in the teaching about the I forgot a golden dove, about how Moshe, the gematria of Mashiach Moshe and Mashiach Yeshua come to exact same gematria as Sulam and Sinai. The two revelations of his name, the one lower face we received at the top of Sinai, the upper face is at the top of the ladder, Yeshua Sahapanim. It's the top of the ladder, the name that represents the upper face. So if you add the Sulam and the Sinai together, the gematria, it comes to exactly the same gematria as Mashiach, Yeshua, and Moshe Mashiach. And we've got Yesh Adonai. It's all perfect. I hope you're following me. It might not make sense if you haven't listened to my previous teachings, but this is all exciting stuff. Let's go back. So we want God to fully exist. So now we can start to see just how significant Shimon is, given what I've just said. Let's go and have a look at some more gematria, because it just goes from more wonderful to more wonderful. Amalek filled, right, it's not coming in the right order, but the triangular number of, so she named him Shimon, the regular and ordinal of Amalek filled. This is the chief evil with which we've got to contend, Amalek. You see this Hamas that we've suffered, an aspect of Hamas is associated with Amalek, just sheer, pure, unfearing of God evil. And he attacks the one's trailing behind. He attacks the tail, does Amalek. The one's trailing behind. Comes to exactly the same. So Shimon is the force against Amalek. Mashiach ben Yosef, who will crush Amalek. Okay. And we've got a connection to Shimon Kefa. The regular and ordinal, the regular ordinal and the mispagadol ordinal. The mispagadol ordinal again, 120. Elijah, Eliyahu Hanavi, add them together, 229. This, the Atbash, the mispagadol Atbash, is 2,290. Okay. So the mispagadol Atbash of Wetikra Shimon comes to 10 times Shimon Kefa, and there's a connection between 10 times something and the thing itself, so they're connected. And the rabbis say the leper of the house of Rabbi Yehuda Nasser is his name. Okay, so we've got a double connection here. This is in the Talmud telling us exactly where the Mashiach is. This is in Sanhedrin 98b. Who is the Mashiach? What's the Mashiach's name? So we get told it's Menachem, Shiloh, Yinon, Chanina. That's spelled Mashiach, the initial letters of Mashiach. Various rabbis say that. All the rabbis were Rabbanon, all of them say he's a leper of the house of Rabbi Yehuda Anasai. He's put outside of the camp of Israel into Rome. It comes from the house of Yehuda Anasai. Who is Yehuda Anasai? He's a descendant of the house of Hillel. Shimon is Shimon ben Hillel, the son of Hillel. It's telling you exactly where the Mashiach is and where he's been put. He's in a leper outside the camp. And it also tells you another place, in Talmud, where is the Mashiach? It says, you'll find him in the gates of Rome, untying his bandages one by one. Shimon ben Hillel is the Mashiach ben Yosef fact. Everything else we've been told is some sort of an allegory. There's possibly a lot of truth in it, but the documents that we have got do not reveal the truth. They reveal the concealment that we need to wrestle with in order to reveal the hidden truth. 1603 is the regular and ordinal of this. If we take this, however, and add a kollel, which we get from the concept that I've been talking about, comes to 1603, exactly the same as this. Shimon, his is the one who is the leper from the house of Rabbi Yehuda Anasai. because Leah was hated. She should have been loved by Esau. So guess what? Shimon's going to sort that problem out. He's going to ensure his mother is not hated anymore. Okay? 7 times 229. He's going to bring about a unity between heaven and earth that gets rid of this hatred forevermore. Okay? And it concerns Asaph, subduing Asaph to a place of holiness and shalom, for this unity between heaven and earth to occur. And it's Shimon that's doing that, because you see, this hate is unacceptable. It's unacceptable that she is hated. So 7 times 2, 29. A connection up here to Shimon Kepha. It's Shimon Kepha and it's Shimon here. And there's a double connection here to, so she named him Shimon. There's some pretty nasty things that need to occur to overcome that hatred. We've got to, crush a lot of powerful forces. Yaakov, 182 plus 47 ordinal comes to 229. Okay? Connected to all these. 2 camps. So, Lishne Mahonot. We talk about the 2 witnesses. These are also 2 camps, or 2 witnesses. The camp of Yehuda and the camp of Yosef. And as we can see, this filled out to the level of Atziluth, where the Vav is filled with a Yod, comes to 1602. Exactly the same as, so she named him Shimon, because Shimon made sure that the 2 camps were split in 2. The camp of Yosef in one camp and the camp of Yehuda in another. And as much as we can look at all the evil, the lies and the deception that occurred within Yehuda and within Yosef, and then got passed down to even Yishmael, which is part of the house of Yosef, all the lies, all the conspiracy, all the deceit, all the concealment was for an ultimate purpose, because we were going up against the forces of Satan himself, Esau, in order to subdue him. And just as Yaakov split his camp into 2, Yod-Heh-Wawi split his camp into 2 when he put up against Esau, lest one be struck down. Okay, and by a sheer miracle, it would appear that both camps have survived, the house of Yosef and the house of Yehuda. And how have they managed to survive? You see, because the duration of exile got extended long enough for that survival to occur. The punishment got spanned out. The contending against Esav got drawn out over 2,000 years. We didn't get the whole force of evil all in one go. We got it broken up over 2,000 years in order for us to both survive. It is a tree of life for those who grasp it. This is the truth. This is the truth. No more tree of knowledge, exilic levels of consciousness that are there because we can't discern right from wrong, because we haven't got empowered with the truth. It is a tree of life for those who grasp it. Etz Chaim Hi. She is a tree of life for those who grasp her. So we've got, at the level of Bria and the level of Atziluth, exactly the same as Shimon. The Atbash of Shimon. The Misbagdal Atbash of Shimon. So she named him Shimon, is a tree of life. Grasp this, you grasp the tree of life itself. The king gives will to an intelligent servant. Ratzon melech le'eved maskil. We've got to return. We've got to return our seikel. We've got to have seikel tov, good understanding. Okay, good understanding in all these matters. Because then we're able to serve Hashem in a good way, the king. So we've got to have good understanding. In the eyes of man, before the eyes of man and God, when we have got our knowledge is falling down into our flesh, we have not got good understanding. We need to elevate that back up in order to have seikel tov. Okay? And finally, I'm just going to quickly go through some other details regarding this, the importance of 732. Okay, what we saw was connected to the concept of the two anointed ones, and all that has been connected to. I'm just going to flick through this really quickly so that you've got some flavour, a little bit of extra flavour with this, and a little bit of extra understanding to help elevate your understanding, your circle up to be circled off. So truth will sprout from the earth and righteousness will look down from heaven. It's all about truth. Instead of the lie that we've been given, we need the truth. 366 times 2 is 732, Ephraim and Manasseh. Why, O Lord, do you bind in my soul? Do you hide your countenance from me? The regular and the misbagdol, so the regular ordinal, misbagdol ordinal come to 732. I'm going to flick through these. Truth, wet and meth, square ordinal and ordinal 732. Sirach, this is the name. She's called Sirach Bat Asher, usually spelt with Sirach. I think within the Midrash she's called Sirach also. So this has got an ordinal of 43 and a square ordinal of 689, add them together 732. She's a very important person in 601. So in the 601st year, the ark landed, and we've got the whole episode of the dove plucking off the olive branch, which is Mashiach ben Dawid. I did that previously in the video I did on Elijah. 1464, 2 times 732. It's all significant, it all ties in. This number is 3 times 529, which is 23 times 23. 23 is Chaya, the mother of all living. This is the soul level of Mashiach ben Dawid. So 23 times 23 is total inter-inclusion, one within the other. The whole concept of Chaya is related to this 601st year, where the ark lands on the mount of Ararat, and the dove is sent out, and she plucks the olive tree in her mouth, and that olive tree is, the olive branch is Mashiach ben Yosef. The tearing it off is related to Mashiach ben Yosef. The olive branch is Mashiach ben Dawid. The tearing it off, she tore off the branch, and that tore off is related to Mashiach ben Yosef, because trof Yosef and ach trof. Surely torn is Yosef. The tree of the knowledge, 645 plus 87, 732. We're trying to overwhelm and overcome the sin that from eating from the tree of knowledge, and this is the process. Perfection of the world, 732, we've already come across it. Elohim, 732, we've already gone through that. It is leprosy, we're talking about his name is the leper from the house of Rabbi Yehuda Anissi, that is the house of Hillel. Exactly the same as this. So we know something to do with the dove and this redemption that occurred in the 601st year. I think it's of Noah's life, 1464. It is leprosy. Hu Tzaharath, 732, 2 times 386. 386 is Yeshua. 88 is Yeshua plus Yonah. The ordinal, 53 plus 35. So all kinds of messianic revelations in there. The book of Yotewaweh, 366. The Zohar says in the verse that contains this phrase, the Sefer Adonai, seek out the book of the Lord. Everything to do with the exile is contained within that verse. Go look at it. You'll find everything to do with the exile contained within that verse. Lavan, this is in this week's Torah portion, 732 is the Mispah Gadol of Lavan. Okay, connected to all this. He's the concealment transformed into revelation. Butter and honey. The Mashiach will eat butter and honey when he knows how to reject evil and choose good. 366. We've got to get to this. This is because he's empowered with the truth. Only the truth gives us the power to reject evil and choose good. 71 is Yonah. So we've got to be connected to the Yonah. That is Moshe and that is Yeshua. Shimon was the Yonah. He was the 71st member of the Sanhedrin. He was the prince. He was the Nasi. He sat in the seat of Moshe. He was anointed with the same spirit of Moshe. This is an outstretched hand over the nations. Okay, so he's got an outstretched hand over the nations to gather them in. 732. The curtain. This is the curtain that we prayed to in order to have our prayers answered. And it's very mystical. It's really the partition between total spirituality and physicality. So this is the whole concept of the Mashiach in a way. It's some sort of intermediary between Yod-Heh, Waw-Heh and physicality. Maybe it won't be your will that the Tekiah Shavarim Teruah Tekiah blast that we have made sound be embroidered in the heavenly curtain by the appointed angel Tatriel and the ministering angel the Memtet of the inner chamber. So I took that off. That's just to let you know that this curtain really represents some sort of intermediary that is definitely associated primarily with Mashiach ben Yosef, who's an intermediary in a way, just like Moshe was an intermediary, okay, between heaven and earth. It's like the firmament, okay. We've got to connect to that because we've got to elevate ourselves up, because there's got to be a union between heaven and earth. There's got to be a union between the lower waters and the upper waters. What we do below has got to connect to what God does above. So we've got a lot of work to do in order to receive that from above. And with that, I will say shalom. Please subscribe and share. I hope that you have enjoyed this lesson. It's incredible revelation contained within. Listen to it again so that you're very aware of these concepts and meditate and explore them further. Go back and listen to some of the other teachings I've done, and you can see how it's all starting to fit all the jigsaw pieces of the puzzle together. We don't know how dark it's going to get, and we don't know how much we are going to need to cling to this light now. Okay, and with that I will say shalom.